Welcome back. Eskom recently celebrated 100 years, while many decades of light have descended into unprecedented rolling blackouts of late, leaving South Africans angry, beyond frustrated and helpless. Let's look at Eskom's history and also current business models. Is there a positive way to move forward? To discuss, we're joined by Wits Political Economist, Dr. Lumkile Mondi. Dr. Mondi, great to have you with us as always. I don't know if you heard the discussion we had. Unfortunately, we lost him, the president's spokesperson. But the delay in appointing an electricity minister after much fanfare was made of that and a huge announcement a bit earlier in the year. Is that really problematic for you?
Well, it reflects the story of how things have changed for South Africa without a vision, without a strategy, and therefore the crisis that we find ourselves in across the economy. So I'm not surprised at all. I didn't expect much, because I've seen how much is being pronounced and how little gets done following the pronouncement. So this is the government that we've had for many years, and we should not expect boldness, because it just doesn't have it at all.
And again, it undermines trust in the rhetoric if something is said and not delivered quickly enough.
Absolutely. I mean, contrast this then with the Eskom, who celebrated 100 years on the 1st of March, the past Wednesday. Really, one of our colleagues, Renfrew Christie, speaks about Eslemiani. This is General Jan Smuts, who had a vision about economic inclusion of a marginalized group of people in South Africa called the Boere, later Afrikaner, who were based in the rural areas and were farmers and had challenges about accessing the market in the emerging Witwatersrand, as well as the other big cities, that Jan Smuts saw coal as a strategic asset and therefore built a national system of innovation where research and development was going to be located at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research in 1918, and moving on to build an institution by recruiting the best knowledge around extracting rents from the mining and financial sector, which was English-owned during the period. And that organization is called Eskom. And that individual who has been instrumental in the history of Eskom is none other than Hendrik van der Bijl, who had studied at Victoria University, which is today Stellenbosch, went on to Germany, where he met Einstein and worked with Einstein, and then moved across the Atlantic to the US and worked with Einstein even there, and came back to do national duty, a vision of industrialization using the state as a leader in the transformation process. And this is the history that Eskom has carried out throughout the many years.
Dr. Mondi, that is such an interesting history. Thank you very much. And then let's take it to 1994. So now a government has to serve not just Afrikaans people, but everybody. The narrative has been that this was an award-winning SOE, but government ignored the warnings in the 1990s, as early as that, about new generating capacity that was needed. And that has made Eskom's task today impossible. Is that a fair assessment of what's happened and what has gone wrong?
That's, again, is very ahistorical. So some of the viewers will remember that in 1981, between 1981 and 1983, Eskom was a huge problem because South Africa was experiencing power outages, and industry was faced with a very rebellious black labor following the Vian Commission and the formation of trade unions. And secondly, the communities that were revolting against an undemocratic regime led by National Party, and at the same time, the National Party facing a political crisis because it was planning political reforms and introduction of the tricameral parliament, which led to its splitting into two, with CP, Conservative Party, led by Andries Steenert, as well as the National Party then led by P.W. Botha. So the decision by National Party on dealing with Eskom's problems of energy insecurity was to institute a commission called the De Villiers Commission. Its recommendations were never followed through. Therefore, the ANC really inherited decisions that were not followed through, and unfortunately, it could no better. It continued kicking the can to touch, and that's the problem that we've had today, is that certain decisions which were made much earlier, politicians have never made them under National Party. So the ANC basically has done the same, and now we're in a deep crisis that we find the country finding itself.
Well, let's talk about how we're dealing with that can now. We have to deal with it. An electricity
Absolutely.
minister, unbundling, even that has been delayed. I understand the appointment of the board to one of these three entities, and that was the big idea. Will it work?
It was a big idea that emanated, Francis, from the De Villiers Commission to split into those three entities: generation, transmission and distribution. And John Marie, the then banker, was asked to go and chair Eskom to fulfill that. But politically, Damstein, the Minister of Minerals and Energy then, didn't do it. So similarly, our regulatory process today have been very, very slow in allowing that process to take its course, where the transmission business is a standalone business and is being run by a separate board and a new CEO. And that has not happened. And I think part of it had to do with the loans that Eskom had. Now that last week, the Minister of Finance has taken part of that package to the national balance sheet, it should allow the process of restructuring and allocating the remaining debt to the three entities to run smoothly. And therefore, I'm hoping that the legislation, as well as appointment of independent boards and the full-time CEOs in these different businesses will take place.
All right, we have to leave it there, but thank you for giving us that historical sweep. Wits Political Economist, Dr. Lumkile Mondi.